Quick question. If your biggest client left tomorrow or your main service offering suddenly lost demand, could you still scale with a productized offer, or would the whole thing stall? After working with over 900 agencies, I found that most aren't actually ready to productize, even if they think they are. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 hidden traps that are sabotaging your ability to productize, real examples from clients that we've actually helped, and a simple model to build income layers that will grow without chaining you to having more and more clients. And hey, if you want tactical tips like this, join the newsletter. Link is in the description. Like I said, I've worked with about 900 agency founders, service providers at this point, and these are the 5 hidden risks that I see even the successful businesses experience. Now, these are the things that quietly kill your ability to really productize your service. So for each one, I'm going to give you a few things, a quick explanation on what it is, what it means, a real world story with one of our clients that we worked with, and a couple questions you can ask yourself to see if this is something that you're actually struggling with. So let's dive in. Risk number 1 is the single revenue stream dependency. So you've got one main service offering, like most agency owners. One change in demand or pricing pressure or maybe a platform update, and the business starts to get a little bit wobbly. Here's why this actually kills your ability to productize. It creates a fragile foundation, and a fragile foundation cannot support scalability. So here's a couple questions you can ask yourself. Is 80% of your revenue tied to one service offer or one mode of delivery? And then what happens if interest drops for that service offer? Now, this reminds me of one of our clients, Chris. When Chris came to us, he was flying around the country 42 times a year. He helped his clients get sponsorship for their conferences, their events, and festivals. And so he would fly around and he would work with a client one-on-one in their conference room or wherever, and they'd leave and they'd have a plan and or they'd even have their sponsor. Problem was, again, he was flying around the country 40 some odd times a year, not seeing his wife, wasn't really happy, was getting burned out. And it wasn't really scalable to, go every single place unless he just kept hiring more people and then train them. So what we did was actually show him how to take his process that he did in those one-on-one rooms and turn it into a system that he could walk multiple people through at one time. And he launched his first Done With You offer, which was a 90-day accelerator to help his members get their first sponsor for their event, paid sponsor within 90 days. His first cohort, he served somewhere around like 20 to 30 people, was able to make a little bit over $30,000. And that offer went on to actually making over $1 million in just about a year and a half from that offering alone. So if someone didn't want to have him fly to their office, or God forbid, a pandemic happens and people weren't doing in-person stuff, his business would have been in a real difficult spot. But his ability to remotely serve one-to-many and still get people the same result and a more affordable option without having to leave his house allowed him to have 2 modes of delivery that people could choose from. And guess what? The more leveraged one totally surpassed what he was capable of doing one-on-one flying around the country. Now, this brings me to risk number 2, the client concentration trap. If 80% of your income comes from new clients, you could be one Slack message away from a tough time, from a disaster. So here's why client concentration kills productization. You're too reliant on relationships in order to transition to systems. So we got to become systems thinkers. So a couple questions you can ask yourself is, what percent of your revenue comes from your top 3 clients? And then how long did you operate if one of them left? This reminds me of one of our clients, John. When John came to us, his main client made up about 70+% of his revenue. What originally started out as a project for brand identity and logos and things like that turned into kind of like a fractional creative role where he was mostly an employee, pretty common with service providers. The problem is he was feeling like this client might leave. And obviously if 70% of your income goes away, that's not the greatest thing in the world. So what we did was look at what he wanted to do, who he wanted to serve, and the thing that he was best at. And he turned that into a repeatable system to help other businesses like his whale client get the same outcome, but with more leverage now that it was repeatable. And he started selling more of these offers around 20 to 60K, depending upon the size of the business. And he started adding a couple of these every single quarter, making the dependency on that one client slowly start to fade away. And now he's not really dependent upon any one client because he has an offer that can be delivered in a streamlined way that doesn't get him sucked into being a fractional employee. Now, this brings me to risk number 3, which is a transactional business model. The reality is projects end and clients leave. And then when they do, you start from zero every single month. That's not scale. That ends up becoming survival mode. Here's why that actually will kill your ability to productize. One-off projects don't really support predictable growth. I'm going to go deeper on this in a little bit, but if there's no path for re-engagement, you don't have that flywheel of taking one client and extending their lifetime value by selling them into the next thing, which creates a dependency on the next new client. So a couple questions you need to ask yourself is, do most clients vanish after your initial delivery? And then the second question is, do you have a plan to retain or ascend them? Now, when we originally productized our agency, we productized our service into building out either a live or an evergreen webinar funnel. We built webinar funnels for dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs, people like John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire, Dan Martell, Jasmine Starr, and many more. And when we were done with that project, that system would run for a long time. And so there really wasn't any more need for us, and we had to go find the next person that needed the webinar funnel, which makes sense. A webinar funnel doesn't really require a recurring engagement, which is okay. The problem is we didn't have any opportunity to keep that person longer. So we created a package called Automation Advisor. And what we noticed was there were tons of opportunities inside their business to actually automate and systematize more of the business. So we sold them on a done with you implementation service where we would meet with them every single month, identify opportunities to further automate what they're doing. And we would actually build the campaigns with their team over their shoulder so they could learn how to manage the system. And we would just get to build it. But it was very systematic. We were able to serve dozens and dozens of clients, all paying about $2,000 a month. And that really allowed us to take someone that got the webinar funnel and continue working with them for another year or more. Now, risk number 4 is something that we will all face. Some of us have already and will continue to face as long as we're alive. And that's market sensitivity. You have to ask yourself, is your offer fragile? What happens if the economy shifts? Or what's going to happen as AI starts to replace more of the things that you currently do for your clients? Here's why this is going to kill productization, or why it can. Brittle offers can't be standardized. And if it's not standardized, it's really difficult to scale. So a couple questions you need to ask yourself. Would this offer survive a recession? Or ask yourself, am I solving a timeless problem or a problem that is a recurring problem over and over? This reminds me of one of our clients, Tim. His agency, when he came to us, served nonprofit organizations. Contracts were about a year long, and they usually were high 5, if not 6 figures. They did a lot of the work for their clients, and he had to hire a lot of expensive experts for delivery, which usually ate into a lot of his margins. When he started working with us, this was actually pre-pandemic. While we were working together, we helped him develop a 12-month consulting offer that was really helping these organizations implement the playbooks and the strategies that he and his team normally did as done for you. Lo and behold, he started selling people into this offer that really couldn't afford the 6-figure offer and or didn't need all of the done for you work because they had 1 or 2 junior people in, say, their marketing team. That allowed him to start serving a slightly different group of people. But then COVID happened and agencies weren't getting hired for done for you work. In fact, a lot of agencies were getting cut because they were external and they were keeping as many people internal as they could. But those internal people didn't really know what to do, at least in the clients that he was serving. And so this offer, which is about $25,000 a year, allowed him to support all of these organizations that weren't able or wanting to pay $100,000 a year and also didn't need the done for you work. And he actually said, coming out of COVID, that if he didn't have this consulting offer, he likely would have been out of business. This brings me to risk number 5, the time for money ceiling, which usually means if you want more revenue, you need to work more hours, or at least someone does. Your business depends upon you or a human to deliver. And if you're not delivering, you're not making money. Here's why this kills productization. There's no leverage. You're the bottleneck, or humans are the bottleneck. People working is the bottleneck. So the audit here is, can I earn without working more hours? What happens if I take a week off? I remember when Kristen came to us, she was selling no-code software development on the hourly basis. And originally it was really flexible for her because she was traveling around the world and she could work on her own time. She didn't really need to interface with her clients too much, but she was selling hours and blocks of hours. And what happens when you start selling blocks of hours, which people think is productized and it's not, is you don't know when they want to use those hours. And so if 10 clients have 10 hours and then they all need a project and there isn't enough hours available for you to serve all of them, you kind of run into an issue. And that's the issue that she was running into. So we helped her look at what she was doing for her clients. And most of them are just looking to get that minimum viable solution out the door to increase their productivity inside of their operations. So she created a 12-week program that helped her clients launch a minimum viable product using no-code tools. And she added very structured ingredients around it: weekly office hours, weekly training and playbooks, templates, and tools, along with a variety of asynchronous support and implementation that allowed them to build this thing with the guidance of her and her team. And she was able to enroll 10, 15, 20 members at a time. And her number of hours kind of on those office hours or, being inside of support actually became really, really leveraged. And she could serve a lot of people without having to wonder and worry, like, am I going to have 5 clients come to me all at once needing 20 hours of my time? So here's the shift that I encourage you to make. And we actually help our clients install this 3 revenue stream model, which creates a ton more resilience in your business, or at least it will. Now, it's really based off of the premise that you want a revenue stream for each of the 3 types of buyers. The first type of buyer is clients. This is more of that high touch core service, meaning it's probably high in effort, but low in volume. You physically can't take, or really don't want to take, tons of these people because you're maybe a little bit more involved. Which brings us to the second type of buyer, which is members. And this is where you can really scale profits. And this is where we look at how do we create more programmatic leverage support? How do we create recurring programs, high ticket consulting offers, very specific workshops with specific outcomes, membership offers, cohort-based programs? These things are all productized if they're delivering a key transformation or an outcome. So members really is that one-to-many, one-to-small group offer that allows you to serve more people without necessarily having to work more hours. The last buyer is what we call customers. These are people that are really info seekers. These are your digital products, your templates, your books and your ebooks. Most service providers that have any sort of experience in the game could have these sorts of offers. And the beauty about this is you can sell thousands of them and it doesn't require any human involvement to deliver. It's more of a DIY thing from the buyer. Now, this is not the first thing that we usually have our clients add because you kind of need an audience and volume to make it really worthwhile. But when you have all 3 of these in place over time, you can actually lean into, well, if the market's not buying high ticket services, well, you can start selling a lot more of your programs or a lot more customer offers. So more on that in other videos, but you got to have 3 revenue streams. It's going to make you way more resilient inside of your business. This model, having 3 revenue streams, we call it clients, members, customers, is the unlock to true productized revenue without the chaos. So here are 5 fixes. Fix number 1 is expand your revenue streams. Eliminate that single stream dependency. Add adjacent offers. Turn your IP into digital products or a book. Add implementation layers where they can pay extra for support or ongoing implementation. Fix number 2 is to kill that transactional model, that one and done grind. Create what I call what's next programs. After that project, what's next? What can you solve? Which allows you to add recurring touch points. It allows you to become closer to clients without becoming a fractionalized employee or a glorified freelancer. Fix number 3 is to build predictable revenue, not have to restart every single month. Look at how you can add a membership or create a recurring program or a retainer that they will want to actually keep, or have something that offers up ongoing support, guidance, and advisory based on the things that you may be implemented in those one-off projects. Fix number 4 is to capture more value. How do you capture more value? Well, you can price on results. You can monetize more of the client journey because your offer probably only, fills a piece of it. You could build more premium tiers of support or guidance. Fix number 5 is to build for market resilience. And you got to focus on more recession-proof offers. You got to sell the painkiller instead of the vitamin. These are the must-haves. We want to always look to recurring problems or solving timeless problems. The reality is these fixes aren't nice-to-haves. They're essential upgrades to unlock productize scale without breaking your business. So here's what to do next. Run that revenue audit. Ask yourself the questions for each of the sections that we talked about earlier. Find that number one weak spot that you have right now, and then just cheat one of the fixes that we talked about and execute that for the next 90 days. Now, if you want help with that, we built a whole program and system to do exactly that. The link is in the description to learn more. And if you want to see how I rebuilt my business around this exact same model, the same model that we're teaching hundreds and hundreds of agency owners just like you, go out and check this video.